Hello, everyone, and welcome back. It's been kind of a minute since we did one of our book club streams, but here we are. We're refreshed, we're ready to go, and we're ready to talk about one of my favorite horror movies. One of my favorite horror actors also. We're talking about Candyman and the story it is based on, Clive Barker's The Forbidden. And today we have a very special guest. We have Kristen, aka C Loom, on
Hi.
Instagram, one of the mods in the Dead Reader Society, which is like my favorite place on the internet. Um, hanging out with all my horror homies. How are you today, Kristen?
I'm great. It's nice here in Portland.
Ooh,
Live in Portland, Oregon. And yeah, can't complain. I'm gonna talk about horror. So
it's always a good day when we get to talk about horror. Um, yeah, we are just getting back off of a little vacation. Not Chris because he's already streamed this week. But this is my first time in like 2 weeks. We went to Tampa Bay for Tampa Bay Comic Con, which was really exciting and fun. Unfortunately, I did not get to do my horror panel because I had to leave the con early to fly back here for a very important grown-up job interview. So that kind of sucked, but that's fine because you guys will get to hear me run my mouth about horror and plenty of other scenarios. So no one's missing out on anything. So yeah, Kristen, what's been going on for you lately in terms of horror? Like what are you reading? What have you been watching? Etc.
yeah, so I just now picked up Don't Fear the Reaper
Ooh,
by Stephen
is
Graham Jones, which
that's the
we're
second
both
one,
kind
right?
of tandem reading that a little bit. I know you're gonna pick it up really soon.
I am. I looked for it today at Barnes& and Noble, and it was not there, which is very sad.
Yeah, I feel like he's kind of having a moment right now.
Yeah,
So
he is. Yeah, the first book, the My Heart is a Chainsaw, if you guys are, on my stuff at all, that's what we did for this month's book club. We're about to wrap that up. Highly recommend. It's really fun, but also very confusing, as you can attest, right? Like, I literally
yeah.
went in the chat and was like, "What did I just read? What just happened in My Heart is a Chainsaw?" The ending just kind of like it's like a little like tumbleweed. It's just like bleh, bleh, bleh,
Mhm.
bleh, it goes really fast, and
Yeah,
then
and it flips genres on you too. You think it's
yeah,
one
sure
thing and
does.
then it goes into another. I don't want to
And
spoil it for
it
anyone,
hits you
but
right in the feels when you least expect it to. You're
it
like slashers,
is.
and then it's like, oh, life. Which isn't life the biggest slasher of them all?
I feel like Jade really gets it in that.
She does get it. And it was funny though, because I finished reading the book and I was like, did I like that? And then I like thought about it and I read other people's like opinions and I was like, yeah, I did really like that. I'm excited to read the next one. But it took me a minute to be like, let me just process what just happened in this.
Yeah, I think for horror, it's also they're really long books for horror too, and so
Hmm.
there's a
They
lot
are.
packed in there. And Stephen Graham Jones inserts a lot of indigenous stories and the social justice behind that, and so
Which
I
I thought
think
was really cool.
he does it in such a way that it doesn't feel heavy-handed,
Right.
um,
I agree.
and it's really nice. And I'm like a couple chapters in. I'm not that far into Don't Fear the Reaper, so don't
Mhm.
worry. But so far, I think you'll really like where it's going.
I'm hyped for it.
So
Um,
just FYI,
It's
I'm
not
not
one
gonna
that
give
I can
anything away.
listen to. Like, I was thinking about getting the audiobook, but I'm like, "No, I definitely can't listen to an audiobook for one of his books. It's, like, too
Yeah,
much."
yeah. So that's what I'm reading. I'm also gonna start the horror because that's what
Oh, nice.
Dead
Yes.
Reader Society
Same.
voted on for this month, amongst other books.
Sodergren, September. Yes.
Yeah. And then as far as what I'm watching, so I am in a documentary, true crime documentary era right now.
So
So
am I. That's so crazy. I just, like, started watching a bunch of true crime documentaries. What are you watching? I'm excited.
I'm actually watching a really good one. Sometimes I've watched so many that I fall into like the Lifetime ones now because I'm desperate.
Those are my bread and butter. Love a
I know, but and then I was like, I've seen so many. Like now I'm like,
they blend
okay,
together.
gotta do the classics with the Lifetime now. That's where I'm at. But there's this one that I started watching. It's called Crazy Not Insane.
Ooh.
It's on Prime, and it kind of goes through this woman who helped. She wasn't. It's not the one that's like the one that Mindhunter is about, but it's another
Mhm.
woman that works with profiling and emotional aspects to people who murder. So
Hmm.
it's actually really well done too.
Sounds
So
really good.
yeah, I recommend it for people who are into true crime. So
I just got big into Betrayal, which I've, like, must have heard the commercials for that podcast, like, 80 billion times during Pod Meets World, but, like, I'm just like, "Okay." Like, I found it on Hulu, and I watched the 1st season in, like, 5 seconds, and I was like, "Okay, now I have to watch the 2nd one." Um, and the 1st one was a little less I mean, it was kinda true crimey, but also at the same time, it was just kind of like the man was just a hoe and cheating on his wife with, like, a million other people, um, and, obviously taking advantage of his students, that's the true crime aspect of it, but the 2nd one was like, oh my god, it was so crazy, like, the 2nd one was, like, really leaned into the true crime, and I can't even say anything about it because it's such a spoiler, but I'm actually thinking of going and listening to the podcast now because apparently there's, like, more into the podcast, like, they break down the interviews, like, they show snippets of it in the show, but yeah, so apparently I'm into that now, um, that's
no, now you sold me. Now I
yeah.
know what I'm doing.
Betrayal, and it's, like, so dramatic too. It's, like, some lady hosts it, and she's just like, "Didn't it suck when your husband cheated on you with 80,000 women?" And, like, the other lady's, like, crying, and she's just like, "They're there." Like, it's great. We love it. Um, yeah, there's always, like, something, like, just I don't know, but the dark humor of, like, this lady's clearly, like, benefiting off of somebody else's trauma.
No,
Like, I guess they benefit off of their own trauma too because 'cause they're making money, but whatever. No judgment. It was entertaining as hell, so highly recommend
yeah,
Betrayal.
no, I know. Yeah, I'm definitely gonna check that out.
And you know what's crazy? Like, looping back to what we're actually talking about today, Candyman. Candyman does have the undercurrent of true crime in it. Um,
Yes,
I sent you those
yes.
articles, right? Like, a million years ago, um, about all these murders that took place in Chicago where, it was, like, in the same housing project that the movie takes place in, um, and, like, people were breaking through mirrors, like, the mirrors they were able to get into the lady's apartment and they killed this woman who kept saying like someone keeps coming through my mirror, someone keeps coming through my mirror, and no one believed her. And then
I mean,
by the
who
time
would?
yeah, I mean, listen, but that's my biggest fear is like somebody like living deep within the walls of my house. Like that's like a genre of horror that's like, nope, I don't like that one. Not at all.
Like, you're like, I need to eat out of this
Demons
subgenre.
demons, fine. Ghosts, fine. Serial killers, fine. But, like, a man living in my walls and just being there, like, don't like that one. I just started pen pal and, like,
How
they
is
talk about
it?
it's really good. There's one part where they talk about someone living under the porch, like,
No,
unbeknownst to the people, and I was like, "Nope, that's too
no.
close to my fear. I don't like it. I had nightmares. It was scary." Um, but it's really good so far to answer your question. But yeah, so I think that lends a really interesting perspective to the Candyman story is that the
Yeah,
director found out about that article and the article that I linked you, I can't remember what it was called. I'll try and find it and link it on my Instagram again, but it was really interesting. It was like a long read but a really good read about like just kind of the world that Candyman the film takes place in.
yeah,
Um,
yeah. I think it's really interesting when you talk about, like, everyone knows Candyman,
mhm,
like the original.
mhm,
And then, like, people in certain circles, like, everyone knows about Clive Barker, but some
Mhm.
people know that, like, Candyman originated in the Clive Barker short story and is as if Clive Barker himself tapped into something that's so grossly human, you know? Like,
Mhm.
that's something that is so universal and horrific.
Mhm.
Because he's talking in the short story, he talks about more like class divide, whereas
Mhm.
Candyman is more racial divide. And they're in two different continents. One's in Europe and the other one's here.
That was the craziest difference to me was that the short story takes place in Liverpool, in, like, a housing project in Liverpool, and then it's like, how do you, like, take that and then decide to set it in South Chicago, like, the South Side of Chicago? Like, that was
Mm-hmm.
just, like, a huge jump to me, but, like, obviously it makes sense and it works, obviously. Um, and then you kind of see, like, in the story, in the short story, like, obviously, like, one of the biggest issues with Helen is that, like, she's, like, so privileged and, like, she doesn't even realize, like,
Mm-hmm.
how privileged she is, and how hypocritical she is. Um, but, like, I feel like once it's set in the South Side of Chicago, like, that becomes really apparent. Like, you can really see, like, how hypocritical it is and, like, how she's almost, like, obsessed with these other people's, like, trauma and pain. Um and, she's, like, so far removed from it, like, she doesn't even see until, like, then she gets swept up into the whole scenario
Mm-hmm.
also. But yeah, the 19 I was thinking about the original film and then the 2021 film, um, which I enjoyed both. I can't really say which one I like more. If I had to pick, I would probably say the original, uh,
Mm-hmm.
but I really liked that the 2021 Candyman kind of showed that it's like, this is a cycle of trauma, and it's gonna
Mm-hmm.
keep happening because of the world that we live in, and it's this guy this time, and then it's this guy the next time, and it's like, at the end, you see those shadow puppets, and they're, like, kind of they're doing, like, the little cyclical thing, and you see everybody going through their respective bad
Yeah.
time.
Yeah. I think it's really so something that I loved that the movie does, but the short story doesn't, is like give Candyman a real, like, almost an occupation of being an artist.
Mhm,
And then in the newer one, it's like really like, oh, we are diving deep into the art world now, which is so privileged.
mhm.
Um, Everyone, I have a master's in art, so I'm
You're
making
like,
fun
"I
of
can say
myself
this with
here.
my whole chest."
I can. I've been in the art world basically my whole life. So, um there was something like really tapped into me about the newer one in that regard.
Mhm,
Um the way that they addressed the privilege of that and how artists of color do, like, it's kind of like sports in that way, like white people buy people of color's talent and benefit on it more
right,
than like the artist does or the athlete does or whatever.
right.
It's really really interesting how that all ends up working out, and I think they did a really really good job with that. But surprising no one, like the director, I forget her name, I'm terrible, Nia something. um
Nia, it's on here, hold on, I will find it. Da, da, da.
I know Jordan Peele was also involved with it. He
Yeah,
might have
he,
been
like, produced, I
yeah, he was a
believe.
producer. Also, not surprising anyone for anyone who.
DaCosta, there we go, that
Oh
was
yeah,
her name.
I
Nia
didn't want to.
DaCosta.
Yeah, I
Fabulous
knew it,
job.
but didn't want to butcher it. So Nia DaCosta, yeah, and then Jordan Peele, who also, if anyone has not checked out any Jordan Peele's films,
Oh my god, love
now
him.
is the time to do that.
I loved his sketch comedy, and then when I found out he was doing, like, horror stuff, I was like, "What?" And then I was just blown away by Get Out, and I loved Nope. I liked Nope, but I liked what was the other one? Oh, the
Us.
Us. Oh my god, that movie. Every time I watch it, I notice something else, like,
Yes.
messed up. It, like, blows my mind every time.
So for my graduate studies, I had to take a class, a really heart wrenching class of critical race theory. I know I'm not supposed to say that word sometimes. Um, but I took that class, freshly done with it, and I rewatched Us, and my world was destroyed. I was like,
Yeah.
oh wow, like there is so deep and you don't even realize it. And it's just like a fun movie too. So
Yeah, it's a great movie. You could watch it and then, like, just take it at face value and still enjoy it, but then when you realize all the nuances and everything, your brain is just like
and I feel like he helped kind of guide that with the new Candyman movie because I feel like that's the
for
same
sure.
energy that Nia DaCosta did in that. And
Yeah.
so, because it's a fun horror movie, but there's also like all these underlying messages and political stances that she's
Mhm.
making in this. And so,
Yeah.
and I feel like the original even did that too, and it did it very well.
For
Um,
sure, which is so crazy that, like, I love that it became that because the short story is very much just, like, kind of guts and gore. Like, it's like, Clive Barker was clearly like, "I wanna make a man with a hollowed out chest that has bees inside of it," and you're like, "Cool for you, buddy. Follow your dream." Um, but you're kind of just
but that's
like
also Clive Barker for you.
Yep, yeah. I mean, obviously, you get that still the same, like, like the poor area in
Hmm.
Liverpool, like the disenfranchised, but that Candyman is like, I don't know, has like long blonde hair or whatever. Like I saw like a artist rendering of like, obviously like what Tony Todd's Candyman is, and then like what like how he was described in the short story, and it's like I love that I love that they're just two completely different things. Um, but yeah, you can't think about this movie, the original movie, without thinking about how great Tony Todd is for that role. Like, holy crap.
Tony Todd, like he had his career made with that movie. Like, okay,
Yeah, for sure.
done. Don't need to
And
do
it's his
anything else.
favorite
I've
thing.
peaked.
It's his favorite thing that he's ever done. Like, he's gone on record and said, like, "This is my favorite thing I've ever done." And that says a lot because he did have live bees in his mouth. So, in order to say that,
That's so cool.
it's
That's so
um
cool.
So wait, I must tell my Tony Todd story because I promised everybody that I would tell my Tony Todd story
Please,
of
I need to
when
know.
when Chris and I a couple of years, I don't know how many years ago it was. It was pre-COVID, but we used to go to this one Comic-Con, and the cool thing about this con was that basically after hours, if you went to the hotel bar, every guest that was at the Comic-Con would just be at the hotel bar with you,
Oh,
just
that's so cool.
vibing. So it's like it almost was like the con was like an afterthought and like everybody was just there to like party at night. Um that was before I hit 30 and got boring. Um this is past my bedtime, guys.
Happens.
But so we did the show. We had done it like 2 or 3 times before that, and we did this one show and Tony Todd was there. Um, and at that time, I had not seen Candyman because obviously Candyman came out when did it come out? 92? 92. I was only 1 years old when that movie came out.
Hmm.
So obviously I like was not super familiar. Um, so somebody was like, "Oh my god, Tony Todd's right there." Like one of our friends that was with us. And I was just like, "I don't know who that is." And they were like, "The Candyman." And I was like, "I've never seen that movie." So then like they told Tony Todd on me that I had never seen the Candyman. So he came over and like proceeded to like basically make fun of me because I had never seen the Candyman. So I have like literally Tony Todd being like, "You never seen my movies? You've never seen my movie? Well, did you see this?" And then like 6 months after this was like when he did that little guest spot on Riverdale. And I was like, now I have to find him because now I've seen something that he was in. But then
So
obviously I
funny.
watched Candyman and loved Candyman and was super excited about it. But he literally like spent the entire time negging me about not seeing his movie, like in a obviously joking way.
Yeah.
And we wound up like drinking with him. He was so cool and chill. I have pictures. I'll post them at some point. I was dressed like a Ghostbuster and I had beers in all my pockets. It was a great time. Um, at some point during the night, he and I were clearly, like, drunk together, and he he thought it would be funny to, like, tell me that he I don't know how we got on the topic of remember the guy Herman Cain that ran for president? Like, at one point, he was like he quoted, like, Mewtwo in, like, his speeches, like, he was just
Oh
very
my gosh,
unhinged. I
yes.
couldn't even tell you what party he was just very
I
unhinged
vaguely remember
all the time.
this.
Um,
Yes.
so I don't know, like, Tony Todd and I were talking about Herman Cain, and he tried to convince me that he knew Herman Cain, so he called his, like, publicist and was, like, trying to pretend it was Herman Cain on the phone, and he was like, "Dude, like, she knows that it's not Herman Cain, like, it says Spencer on, like, the on the thing." Um, oh my god. It was just a fun night. Um, but yeah, like, little did I know, like, I got to hang out with the Candyman, like, we
Yeah,
drank
the
PBRs
Candyman.
together and had a great time. Um, but yeah, that's he told me that he was in Babe and Pig in the Big City, but I don't think that's true. Like, we've tried to look it up, and I don't think he's in it.
Oh my gosh. He
It's
has
just
like a
unhinged.
magical voice too.
Oh my god, he does have such a nice voice. Such a nice guy
Yeah.
too. He really gives great hugs also, I must say. Did you get a hug from him, Chris? Just me? I got a hug from him. It was a good hug.
Aww.
He's pretty tall too, like,
Yeah,
from what
he's
I remember.
huge. Yeah.
In our
He's a big guy.
picture, like, he's, like, at least, like, head and shoulders,
Yeah.
like, like, above me.
Yeah.
Like, um, but yeah, that was my excellent Tony Todd story. Good times.
Mm.
Um, but yeah, Tony Todd really ties this whole film together. I'm so glad that, the 2021 movie kind of, like, tied the original movie into it. Like, I love that it was, like, a continuation basically of that. Like,
Yes.
it was not a
Mhm.
reboot, it was a continuation. I have not seen, like, the other Candyman movies,
Neither
like,
have
in the
I.
original, like, thing. I don't know, but I know that the 2021 movie was born of, like, they wanted to make a prequel about Daniel and his experience and, like, falling in love, um, and, like, that whole thing, and the movie, like, wound up getting stuck in, like, production hell, um, and then we finally got this one, the most recent iteration, the 2021 Candyman, but not without, all of the trials and tribulations of the COVID movie shenanigans, which is, like, nobody wanted to release movies, everyone was holding on to them, um, which I guess paid off for them in the long run because it did wind up doing pretty well at the box office from what I
Mhm.
can see. So,
Yeah.
um, oh, one thing I wanted to say about the story is the most shocking thing for me in the short story was there's no summoning him with his name. Like, that's just
No.
made up for the movie. I did
Yeah,
not know
that's
that.
totally in
Like,
the movie. You
I guess it came from, like, the Bloody Mary stuff because, like, I'm sure
Yeah.
that predated it.
It's
Um,
like you summon in the short story, you summon him by not believing in him,
yeah,
or I think that was the vibe I got.
yeah,
Or if you mention him, that was like kind of because Anne Marie mentioned
right.
him to Helen, and then Helen was like, "Oh, I'm doubting." But it wasn't really Helen that was doubting. It was like all these people in her
It was all her
ears.
friends, yeah, and they were, like, basically like, Pixar didn't happen. They were like, "There's no newspaper articles, so it's not real." Like, none of these horrific things happen, which says a lot about kind of, like, the way that the world works is, like, there are so many people who, when a white girl goes missing, you hear about it in 5 seconds, but if a person
Exactly.
of color goes
Hmm.
missing, it doesn't get reported in the news,
I thought about
and
that too. Hmm.
so in a way that's real. They're like, "Oh, it wasn't in the paper, so it's not real." And, yeah, and even today, like, we do still have the media tends to sensationalize one over the other. So I thought that was interesting. But yeah, I guess, like, not believing in him or, like, doubting him, like, summons him, or maybe it's just, like, the fact that it's just Helen is there, but, like, that whole backstory didn't exist, um, and also, like, that whole 3rd act thing where, like, she gets committed. Am I frozen?
You are a little frozen. Well, you're
Oh
black
no.
to me right now, but
Oh, no. Oh, no. Hold on, we'll fix it. You can hear me though, right? Okay, hold
That's
on.
why I wasn't really complaining a little at
Like, I'm
all.
not complaining. Yeah, now I'm a black screen, I see that.
Okay.
Um, I'll just keep talking even though I'm a black screen.
Okay.
Um, but, you know, I definitely think that that whole, she was, like, basically accused of being crazy and, like, committing all the crimes, like, all the murders and stuff like that. I thought that was, like, an interesting thing to add in, but I guess, like, it's a short story, you're gonna need to add things to it at some point,
Yeah.
I suppose, because it's like
There
you
you
can
are.
only do so much with, "Yay, I'm back. Look at that, guys." I went into the void for a second, but it was nice. I came back. I'm all refreshed. Um, yeah, I appreciate that they did add that in, but, like, it kind of didn't really need to be part of the story, I guess, but, that's always, like, a thing that, like, when I was younger would creep me out in horror things, where it's, like, in the Goosebumps thing where the kids were like, "Mom, this dummy's alive," and they would be like, "No, it's not, stupid child. You don't know things because you are just a child." And, like,
Yeah.
this horrific thing is happening to you, but your parents don't believe you, and it's like, "Ah, that's so scary." So it kind of gave me that kind of vibe,
Yeah,
the
like the
gaslighting
gas.
vibe.
Yes, gaslighting. Yeah, it
Yeah.
happens so much. Like, the mortality rates of Black women is so much higher in the U.S.
Mhm.
than white women, and so I thought about that a lot too, and like because it focused on women a lot in
Mhm.
this.
Yeah.
It was like women telling the stories, and the men being like, "No, that's not
How
real."
how awful is her husband or, like,
I
boyfriend? Husband?
I don't know, fiance, like
Yeah, I don't know. He's just
something.
the fucking worst. Every time I watch this movie, I'm just like, could this guy get any worse? Like,
Yeah, well, I love the ending. Like the last line in The Forbidden is so so good. I'm gonna pull it up because I was like,
do
oh,
it.
now that's an ending. Because she was like, because he's like, a piece of shit.
Yeah.
Um, and she's like dying. Um, it Clive Barker wrote, not so that he could save her from death, which meaning her husband.
Yeah.
She was long past hope of that. She would no longer be saved. But because she pitied him in his bewilderment and wanted to give him, though he would not have thanked her for it, something to be haunted by. And that is a story to tell. Like, she was like, you
Mhm.
know what? Fuck you. Like, I'm dying. It's your fault. You're gonna have to live with this, and I'm gonna haunt you. I'm gonna haunt you
Dude,
now.
the worst part of the movie that, like, sticks out in my brain from the first time I saw it was when he has the new girlfriend in the house and they're, like, painting. It's the shit that I would have shat if that happened to me. Like, the shit I would have flipped on that man. Like, I was just like, "What?" Like, this is like, murders, like beheading dogs, like whatever. But this bitch in here entirely redoing my apartment? No way. Goodbye. Like,
It's like the real life stuff is like what's
yeah.
horrifying. And I will say that I did see Candy. So I was born in '87, so I wasn't that much older than you.
Okay.
Um, and the thing is, I started watching horror a little too young, but
Yep,
I ended up
same.
okay. I'm fine.
We're
It's
fine.
probably not
We
for
adjusted.
everyone, but I was okay. So
Yeah.
there's hope for others out there.
Mhm.
Um, Candyman was one of the first ones I saw when I was younger, probably about
Wow.
mid '90s. Yeah, um, probably one of like to this day, like I'm all, oh, scariest movie, Candyman, the original. The
Yeah.
original Candyman is like, but I think it's because I have like this traumatic core memory of it, and I think it also like radicalized me in a way. I
Yeah.
was like, got radicalized because of Candyman. So
I don't the other thing I would love to understand is, like, They don't ever explain why he's called the Candyman. Like, he's made of bees, so, like, shouldn't he be called, like, the Bees Man? That's not as fun, I guess,
I know
but
they like briefly like mentioned in the short story that there was candy with
like razors or something?
razor blades.
Because that's in the 2021
Yeah,
one as well.
it's in
So
the new one. They decided to try to like make sense of it. They
yeah, so
tried
it's
to
just, like,
shave
one
it.
of the other, like, unfortunate men of color who bad things happen to. It's like it's that cycle thing, like, with the shadow puppets that they show.
It's
Um,
yeah.
yeah, it's very unfortunate. And, um, another thing that I'll get to it in the trivia. I mean, I'll just bring it up now, actually. But, the sweets to the sweet, I didn't realize came from Hamlet. Did you know this?
Me,
Yeah.
I should have, but I did
I
not.
didn't I didn't at all, and I was an English major, so, bad for me, I guess.
No, it's
But,
bad for both of
I
us. Like,
asked I asked my friends who are Shakespeare experts, my friend Chloe, local honey, who did one of the episodes, and, my friend Jack, who, also loves Shakespeare. I asked them if they could, like, recall context because I was too lazy to Google, and they basically said that it's, like, in the context of the story, it's like Ophelia at the grave, and she's talking about, she means, like, when you're good, good things happen to you, which is super ironic that it's like that's part of the Candyman story, because basically it's like, Daniel, there was nothing wrong with Daniel. And, like, he was a good person and shitty things happened to him, like, so I think it's, like, kind of ironic that it's used, like that. But yeah,
I
I
think
thought that
it's
was
kind of,
interesting.
yeah, I think it's kind of flipping it on its head a little bit, being like,
Hmm.
you know what, the world sucks and the system fails people, and
Every day.
I know Clive Barker probably had no real context for the American Dream, but I
Hmm.
know the original Candyman and the second one kind of like leans off of that too. Is like, no matter
Mhm.
how much you like fight and work, like things just are not going to line up if the cards are not stacked in your favor. And
Right.
so, what do you do with that? Um, and I think that's kind of like at the heart of all three,
Mhm.
um
Yeah.
of the short story, the original and the new one, is like when the cards are stacked up against you, what do you do? How do you move on? How do you, can you, um and if
Yeah.
the cards are stacked in your favor, what is your role in all of that? And so, and I think Clive Barker, man, bless him, he was like, these people suck.
Yeah. Hell yeah.
He was
Yeah.
like, academics, intellectuals, boo, don't like them.
Yeah. I mean, Trevor's pretty bad in the story, but, like, he's just extra
he's,
bad in the movie. We hate Trevor.
he's
That's if you take anything away from today is that we hate Trevor. He sucks.
yeah, he should have been the in the bonfire. So,
Yeah, we should have burned him. That's
but
just
he's gonna be haunted. So,
yeah.
what's really worse?
And he has ugly pink walls in his apartment now. So that look like Pepto Bismol. So sucks to suck, bro. Uh,
92 was a bad time.
Yeah, yeah, man. Everyone's rooms looked like that. All right, we ready for some trivia? A lot. If you've listened to the
Yeah.
Big Dumb Monsters episode on Candyman, you probably have heard a lot of these. But I would like to talk about bees because, first of all, if I would had a bee shirt today, I would have worn a bee outfit. I love bugs. Like, if I was a Pokemon trainer, I would 100% be bug type. I collect taxidermy bugs upstairs. I have some taxidermy bees. They're literally small and in a jar. Otherwise, I would have had them here on the table. Um, but I think the bees are some of the most interesting aspects of this production. Um, so the bees themselves were bred for the movie, like specifically. They needed to
Wow,
make
how
sure that
ethical of them.
they, they could only be 12 hours old. So that way they looked like mature bees, but they wouldn't be too, like, harmful with their stings.
Yeah, and also
Crazy.
like you're not taking out a whole population of bees in the
Yeah, mhm.
process.
Yeah, so, yeah, they bred these bees. The guy they had a bee guy I'll find his name on here because I
I
was
need to know
looking at
this
it.
bee guy.
The bee guy, he, like, worked on a bunch of different, movies, like, as their bee guy. Hold on, it's on here. I know it is on here, I read about it earlier. He's, like, a PhD. No, that's not him. Bow, 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 bow. Where's the bee guy? Hello? While I'm looking for it, so do you know how much money Tony Todd made off of the bees in this movie?
No.
So he asked for $1,000 every time he got stung by a bee because those bees were really in his mouth. So he
Uh,
in different interviews
10,000.
more actually. And so
Whoa.
anywhere from 23 to $26,000 he got stung at least 23 to 26 times. He's said both in different interviews. Obviously he's like, I got stung a fuck ton of times and I made some money. Um so yeah, he got stung that many times. And he was like, I had a really good lawyer. Like he basically had that written into his contract, which I mean,
Pro
hey,
tip. That's a
would you
pro
get
tip,
would you get stung by bees for money? Because I probably would.
Yeah, because I'm not
It's hard out here,
allergic to
man.
bees, so I won't die. Unlike
Yeah. Well, yeah, they were
all of
only
our
12
other
hours old.
trauma movie, My Girl. Everyone's
Yeah.
traumatized from
Oh
that.
my god, so the bee guy, Norman Gary, he's PhD, he handled the bees in My Girl too.
Wow, like I did
He
not
was just the
mean
bee
to like make
guy.
a full circle moment, but
Yeah, he worked
one
on The Deadly
traumatizing movie to
Bees.
another, it makes
I've never heard of The
sense.
Deadly Bees from 1966, but he worked on The Deadly Bees, My Girl, and Fried Green Tomatoes. And this film specifically used 200,000 real honeybees. And most of the crew they were wearing all these hardcore bodysuits so that way they wouldn't get stung. But it's been said that at least all of them have been stung at least once. So I mean, you got bees, man.
Yeah,
It's pretty hardcore. I just love that they had a bee guy. I was like, "Now I can die happy that I know that there was a man who was just the bee man." And they're like, "Let's call it the bee guy." I got a guy.
I got a guy. Like everyone in Hollywood's like, I got a guy. I got to be a guy.
Now,
Like
and
what?
you know what? That's
Really?
one thing that, like, the 2021 movie will not have on the 1992 movie is, like, they use real fucking bees, man. They're hardcore.
No, we don't have to.
No, now they don't have to. So, I mean, sorry you lost out on $26,000, but yeah. I think it's really cool that they were bred special for the movie. That's
Yeah,
that's a fun
yeah.
time.
I appreciate that because, like I said, you're not wiping out a whole like population of bees. So
So, also, Cabrini Green obviously really exists. Those news articles will tell you all about that and the murders that took place in the housing projects. Um, they really filmed in the housing projects, and the producers of the movie had to make deals with the gang members in the area to put them in the movie as extras, to ensure that
yes,
the cast and crew were safe during filming. Um, and on the last day of filming, even with that arrangement, a sniper um, put a bullet in the production van, and no one was hurt. But that still is a thing that
that
supposedly happened.
I mean that
You
is
are filming on the south
hilarious.
side of Chicago, like, you have to understand,
You
like,
gotta you
where
gotta
you
make
are.
friends. Yeah, you
Yeah.
gotta read the room and make your friends.
Yeah, I mean,
And
I
those
think it's
friends
really
might
fun
need
that they
money.
put I hope they paid the extras too. Like, I hope that people were able to make some money off of that.
Yeah, or at
Um,
least get some free food out of it.
yeah,
So
something, yeah. Listen, craft tables, awesome. When I filmed for Comic Book Men, I was only there for a few hours, but that craft table was fire. I took a lot of gum from them.
yeah, it's stuff like that that like makes people happy. So
Let's see, what else do we have here? There's so much fun, like, trivia for this movie. Um, Apparently, Virginia Madsen, who played Helen, like, tried to tell the director that she was allergic to bees, and he was like, "You're not allergic to bees, you're just scared of bees." And then they tested her, and she wasn't allergic to bees, she was allergic to wasps. And he was like, "It's okay, it won't hurt that much." And she was like, "All right." So that's pretty fun.
That's interesting that like the sting impact is different.
Yeah. Yeah.
Huh.
I never thought that. I thought a sting was a sting. I didn't realize like you
Yeah.
could be allergic to one and not another, but crazy.
Yeah.
Um
Well, makes sense.
so
I'm allergic to mosquitoes and
oh, me
my
too. They get
yeah,
like
and
do you get like welts like
yeah,
too?
like
Mhm.
size of baseballs sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I don't
it's bad.
think I've ever been stung by a bee. Like, I can't recall if I was ever stung by a bee, so I don't think I ever was. I'm just, like, allergic to outside, so, like, I could
Yeah.
have been and not known. Uh, but, I did allergy testing, like, earlier this year, and that wasn't, like, one of the things that came up, so I guess I'm okay. Um,
Yeah.
but, you never know. I'm allergic to life.
And allergies come and go as they please. So,
Yeah. Yep. That's true. I was never allergic to cats, and now as an adult, I'm allergic to cats, so that's a thing. Um,
yeah.
Also, apparently in the movie, when Candyman walks, he has no sound with his footsteps, which, like, is supposed to signify that he's, like, a superstition come to life. Like, so he's, like, a
Makes
real
sense.
ethereal
That's
being.
really
I
cool
never
that
paid
they.
attention to that. I was reading these, and I was like, "Well, now I wanna go back and watch it again." Um,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah. Do, do, do. So the shots of Chicago, like from above, they didn't really have drones or anything at that time, so they had this thing called the sky cam.
Oh yeah.
And it was like one of the first instances where they used that type of technology in a movie. Um, so it's it's significant in that way because, there were no shots like that of Chicago until that time. So that's
Yeah,
cool.
yeah, now that you think about it. I remember a bit of that, and I do have some background in film, and so that's really cool to know that now.
Oh, okay. So now they're talking about Candyman's appearance in the story as opposed to the film. So in the in the short story, I just was thinking about like what an assault on your eyes this would be. So in the story, he is probably a white man with yellow hair and yellowy skin with a red beard. I'm
So
like,
he's
"He looked
like,
like Ronald McDonald?" Like, I don't really
but
know.
not in the hair, but in the
Yeah, I don't
beard.
I'm like, "Why does he have an unruly red beard?" It's like the redheads, they're the problem.
He
Um,
has jaundice, and it affects
I'm like, I'm
everything but
glad
his
that he doesn't
beard.
look like that because he would've looked a whole mess. Tony Todd's kind of sexy in this movie, I'm not gonna lie. Like,
Mhm.
he's got some kind of appeal, um, which also leads me to this next fun fact, which is that, Virginia Madsen and Tony Todd took ballroom dancing classes together, so they would have more of, like, chemistry, and you definitely can
Aw.
feel that, like, sexy, evil chemistry, like,
Yeah,
um,
I
I
love that
you
though. That's a really
do
good
you
idea.
think
Man, Hollywood has all these tricks, and I'm
Yeah, I
like,
know, it's crazy. Like, well,
man.
now they have, like, intimacy coaches and stuff like that for, like,
Mhm.
movies, like, where it's like, um, but I thought that their romance was very, interesting. Like, I would have loved a prequel, like, where you see all those things, like,
Mhm.
kind of transpire. I think that's a really cool story in and of itself. Um, I kind of took away from it. I don't know if this is, like, really, like, canon, but, like, she's, like, the reincarnated version of the woman that he fell in love with, that he had that affair with, basically. Not really
Mhm.
an affair, but, he got her pregnant.
Yeah.
Um, so that's kinda how I saw that, but I thought that was
Yeah, I
cool.
can see that. That's
Yeah.
we can make
Um,
it canon.
and the director, Bernard Rose, wanted, him to be Candyman himself to be kind of a romantic figure,
Makes
which is
sense.
I mean,
Yeah.
like, yeah, in the same way that The Crow is a romantic figure, like, it's
Yeah.
that same, like, gothic, macabre kind of thing.
Mhm.
Yeah, and he says, like, Tony Todd was always so romantic. He ties him in so elegantly, and he's just such a gentleman. He was wonderful, and you definitely get that, like, from his portrayal in the movie, I think, too.
Yeah, and also you're like jumping from Clive Barker, which is known to add like not really romance per se, but a lot of questionable sexiness.
Mhm.
So
Well, I mean, like, look at Hellraiser. It's like, do you know how many people are
Hellraiser
like,
is like a whole thing.
everyone's like, "The Hellraiser's hot," and I'm like, Okay, sure, yeah."
It's a
It's
whole
like the people
thing.
that find Pennywise hot. Like, there was, like, a whole, like, clown simp thing, like, where they my friends and I still argue about this. A lot of my friends think Alexander Skarsgård as Pennywise is so hot, and I'm like, "No." Maybe it's because like, that movie I saw when I was very young, the Tim Curry one, and
Oh,
it scarred me for life. So, maybe that's why it's like I'm scared of him. Don't
well, and
like
Tim Curry, I love Tim Curry, but he
He's great.
like can be really creepy looking. He's really good at it. He's just
And he's
really
just
good
like,
at
he
it.
could also be Nigel freaking Thornberry from the Wild
Yes.
Thornberrys, and
He's
he could
just like
be it.
such a good actor. He's so good.
Smashing. I love him. Man. He's somebody that, I don't think he does cons anymore because I know his health is like
Mhm. He's old.
I was gonna say he's still alive, right? Yeah, he is.
I think he's
Ooh.
still alive, but he has to be old.
Yeah, no, and I know he was like in a wheelchair because they had did the Rocky Horror Picture Show. They did the live one with the girl from Victorious, and um I think maybe Laverne Cox was in it. I can't remember. It's kind of fuzzy in my brain now, but I know he like cameoed in it, and I remember being like, "Oh, I didn't know he was sick." Like, damn. Um, but yeah, we love Tim Curry. We stan.
Gosh.
Um, there's that meme that's like, you could tell what kind of person you're friends with, like by where they know Tim Curry from, like which Tim Curry is their Tim Curry. uh,
Yeah, he
so,
still is alive.
yep, good, good. We need it that
He's
way.
78, so I was right.
Wow,
He's
yeah,
getting there.
he's up there. He's up there.
Um,
Still
but
fabulous.
yeah, I loved him in Clue.
I haven't watched that in so long. I should watch that. That's a good one.
It's a
Uh,
comfort movie for me, so maybe that's why.
Now that I'm like not terrified of Pennywise anymore, like I could appreciate, like I did watch the It miniseries and like he's so good. Like I
So
can't.
good.
When he's beep beep Richie, I'm like Georgie.
Yeah.
I can't. Like I love it. Yeah, I'll just walk around doing that voice for the rest of my life. It's a good time.
On
Um,
Saturday, every Saturday here in Portland, there is a small theater that does the Rocky
Rocky
Horror Picture
Horror.
Show at midnight.
I haven't been to one in so long. I grew up in the city, and they did the midnight Rocky Horror shows in the village, and um, yeah, good times. Uh, I wanted to do it for my after prom, but some mom got mad at us and like said that my mom was the devil for like letting us
Boo.
wanting to let us do that. My mom was like, "Shut up."
That's a real mom being
Yeah,
like, you know
yeah.
what?
She used to go all the
It's
time,
fine.
man. She's a theater girly. Um, she told me a story. I can't tell this on the podcast because God forbid one of them listens to it. I'll tell you later.
Yeah,
Um,
you know where to find me.
yeah, yes, I will. We'll spill the tea. Um, anyway, another cool fact. Apparently they at one point during production they started hypnotizing Virginia Madsen. And
Whoa.
they gave her a trigger phrase on set, like for like scenes with Candyman. I guess they were trying to like incorporate that into it. And then she like got really uncomfortable with it and was like, "Please, can we not do this anymore?" And they stopped. But like,
They
interesting.
turned her into a sleeper agent.
Yeah, for sure. Very. I don't blame her. Um, Tony Todd talking about the character. Um, he compares his character to Phantom of the Opera was one of the characters that
Mm-hmm.
and I was like, I could totally see that. There was another
I
one, but
see that. I see that. Mm-hmm.
I can't find the
Little
other
little
person.
less sexual predator.
Yeah. Mhm.
Candyman's not quite like that. He's a classy dude in that way.
Yeah. Agreed. Okay, so when in the movie when Helen discovers the toilet bowl and it's like full of bees and they're like feeding on something, they sprayed queen bee scent from their bee guy to the inside of the toilet bowl. And then the wrangler released the bees from the hive directly into the toilet, which had no
Yeah,
in it and was not a functional toilet, and then they
No.
applied Vaseline to the upper inside of the bowl to prevent bees from coming up too close to the lid, and then after the scene was filmed, they had like, a bee vacuum, but, like, it was, like, safe for the bees, so, like, when they
Yeah.
needed to, like,
Mhm.
get the bees off of the actors or get them off of the surface, they would just, like, vacuum up all the bees. So fun. And then they got returned to their hive.
Oh my gosh.
I wanna see, like, the disclaimer, "No bees were harmed in the making of this
Yeah,
production."
I also am like, do the generation from these bees still exist?
I don't know, that's an interesting question, we should ask the bee guy. That's a guest I would love to have on this podcast. "Excuse me, Mr. Bee Man, I need to
Mr.
know."
B-Man, we need you. We have some
Yeah,
questions.
we need you. I have many questions for you about your bee career. Um, yeah, I'm gonna look him up. Did you know that Eddie Murphy was considered for the title role of the Candyman?
No,
Imagine how different of a film that would have been.
no, I don't want to imagine
He
that
lets the bees
parallel
out of his mouth, and
universe.
they're like, "My bees like to party all the time, party all the time." Yeah, so he didn't get the role because he was too short, apparently. He's only
Well, they got the
5'9".
right person because Tony Todd
Yeah,
is a
6'5".
big man.
6'5". Yeah, I have to find that picture, of us together.
Oh, you looked it up.
Um,
He's 6'5". I knew he was
yeah,
tall. I knew he
yeah,
was tall
he's a big man. Do, do,
because that's like
do.
what everyone
Oh,
says about him.
the characters that he compared himself to, besides Phantom of the Opera, he said that he tried to play it with the same kind of seduction of DC Comics villain Scarecrow. He said
Scarecrow.
he liked the dichotomy of the tenderness and terror like together. So like Scarecrow, Phantom, Hunchback of Notre Dame. Although I wouldn't really say that. I mean, I guess physically, like he was technically a monster, but like he didn't really do nothing wrong. He was just there. He kills a
Hmm.
girl though in the book, right? Does he kill
Yeah,
Esmeralda? Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I know there's murder. I was like, that was not in the Disney movie. That movie was pretty dark though
No,
for a
it's
Disney
in the
movie.
original though. Like
Yeah, in
all
the book.
Disney
I read
movies are
it.
really messed up.
Yeah. I love
We
the soundtrack of Hunchback though, the Disney soundtrack. So good. I
It's
can't
so
wait.
funny that Disney movies are so messed up when you go to the original.
Yeah. And now I'm gonna have that song stuck in my head. I'll be walking around nodding in Paris, the city awakes. Yeah. Um let's see.
Because I just listened to the original of The Little Mermaid to kind of like refresh my mind to see if
Like
it's
the
okay to
original,
play
like
for priest.
the Hans Christian Andersen story?
Yes. And I was
Yeah,
like, is
sad.
this okay to play for my I'm a preschool teacher. Is this
Oh, I
okay to
used to
play
work
for
in
my
pre-K.
preschoolers? And I was like,
Isn't it so funny all the spooky ladies work with kids? Like
no, I won't do that to them. I'll let their parents do it to them.
yeah,
I won't be the one.
that made me sad the first time I read it. Like, I remember getting, like, a big anthology. It was, like, a really pretty one I got, like, somewhere. I think maybe at, like, Hallmark. Like, they used to have, like, these, like, really pretty, like, books, like, like, all these, like, pretty bound copies. And I had, like, the fairy tales one, and I was, like, very sad when I realized. I was like, "Oh, she's just like, 'That's okay. He doesn't notice me. Now I'm Seafoam. Bye-bye.'" And I'm like,
And
"That's
Ursula
sad."
is like really like she's bad in the movie, but you're like,
I was just saying
whoa.
it today to my when I was getting my hair done, I was talking to my hairdresser, and I was like, "When I can die happy when I play the role of Ursula the Sea Witch. Like, somebody do a production of The Little Mermaid so I can be Ursula the Sea Witch."
She
That's really
is
it.
like ultimate villain. Like she's legit scary.
I just
I
wanna
love
shimmy
her.
and say, "Body language." That's the best part. Um, other fun Candyman facts, his name was supposed to be called 13 times, but then they reduced it to 5. Imagine, like, it would just be
13
like, "Come on, bro, like,
in the
13? That's a
movie
lot."
too. They would have to
Yeah,
do like the cross transition of like them saying Candyman and be like a fake time lapse
yeah.
because there would just be so many Candymans.
Um, Did you know Tony Todd wrote the character's backstory? Like, he's the one that came up with the whole forbidden interracial love affair and the woman painting her pictures, and then, like, that whole aspect, Tony Todd helped create that. I didn't know that until
That is
today.
so cool
I know, I love that for him.
because I really
Do do
like that aspect.
Yeah, they keep writing the hypnosis thing on this page. It's like, "Yes, we know. They said that already." Um, do. Yeah, I can't even believe that how many bees were in this movie. Like, I just think about the bees. So when they had to put the bees all over Helen and Candyman, they sprayed them with the scents too.
Oh yeah.
Um, and
Wow.
they would, like, pour the bees on them from a container and then vacuum them up off their bodies. I keep freezing. Super annoying. Hate it. Um, Also, Tony Todd said during a Comic-Con panel at one point that the bees had their own trailer. And, like, the bee man made him meet the bees before they shot. And, like, was like, "Look, they're just babies, like, don't swat them, don't, like, get anxious around them, like, it's fine." Um, yeah,
Don't make fun of the bees in front of
he's like,
them.
"Be kind to the bees, it's okay." Um, but yeah, very interesting, um, bee lore. Mm, mm, mm. What? Really? Apparently, Virginia Madsen is in Teen Titans, like the cartoon. I am gonna have to look that up and find out where she is. Um, yeah. Appa Apparently, more lore about the Bee-Man. The Bee-Man the Bee-Man was on Johnny Carson, and he was playing the clarinet while covered in bees, and that's how the director found him.
I
Look
need
it
that.
up
You
for
know, imagine him being like, "I'm watching Johnny Cart." He's probably casually watching this,
Yeah, it's
and
like
then he's
you're
like,
just like, "Is this really happening?" Like, I would think I was like, "Hi." I would be like, "What is happening right now?" Uh,
I mean, it was another
Crazy.
time. He was on Johnny Carson. Weird
I
things were
can't.
happening. Everyone was on drugs. Okay,
Yeah,
so
everyone was on drugs when Johnny Carson was on the air, it's true. Um, yeah, I just can't even imagine having the bees in his mouth too. Like,
I would.
the
Yeah,
bee guy
I
is probably
would
used to that
not
shit.
be okay.
Mm, mm, mm.
If bees were in my mouth and I was getting paid for it, I would do it. I would just hope for the best. You know, the whole time I'm just like the tears would be falling for sure.
Yeah. Da, da, da. Oh, okay. The last bee fact of the night is that when he has the mouth full of the bees, he wore these dental dams so that way the bees wouldn't get in his throat. I mean, he still got stung, but, like, at least the bees didn't, like, lodge themselves in his throat and, like, sting him down his throat. Um,
These are
Crazy.
solid facts.
I
Now
wish I
I
knew all of these stories, like, when I met him, like, because I was just a dumb idiot that didn't know who Tony Todd was, so, yeah. We had a
Hey,
great
but the
time.
fact that you didn't know who he was, you were able to like hang out with him.
Yeah, and he was able to troll me, like, for many hours. Yeah. Who do you remember who else was at that con with Tony Todd?
Uh,
That wasn't the one that I
Paul
had the
Sorvino, Ray Park.
Oh, that was the Ray Park year. Oh,
Yeah.
that's a great story that we can't tell on the air. But yeah, that was not the year that I had a really bad stomach virus and possibly gave it to James Marsters. So that was a different year. Yeah. Yeah. Uh, you heard it here, folks. I had the shits, and then I might have given it to Spike from Buffy the Vampire Slayer. He told me I was pretty though, which was the highlight of my life. He probably says it to every
That
girl
is
that comes to
something
his
to like
table.
brag about. You should put that in your bio.
I
Like,
should put that on my resume. James
yeah, I was
Marsters
about to
thinks
say
I'm
that
pretty.
next. Like,
And Jason Mewes told me I was a winner. So I lead with all the time because, we love Jay and Silent Bob in this house. But yeah. Sometimes when I'm sad, I should just be like, James Marsters said I was pretty. So
yeah,
yeah. Very demure. Very, very, very
that is actually very demure, and that is
very
very
demure.
mindful.
And then I was dressed as like I was wearing a Spidey suit, and I had like the red wig on, like I was supposed to be Mary Jane in the spider suit. Um, and he was like, "Your hair is so pretty," and I was like, "Oh boy, it's a wig." Like, what? I was like,
Dang
"Buddy,
it.
no, I couldn't get these curls." Um, but yeah, he was nice. He said I was pretty. He probably says it to everybody, but it's okay. I took a cute picture with him.
No,
I don't
you
think he
can't say
charged
that.
me. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if he charged me for that. I can't remember. We're gonna say he did it and that he really thinks I'm pretty. And that I'm the new
Yeah,
Buffy. It's me. Um, but anyway, Candyman, great movie. I cannot. Which one do you prefer, 2021 or original?
the original.
Hmm. I feel
Even
like
though
that's
I relate to the new one
yeah.
a
Yeah,
lot.
the new one definitely did a great job of like making it current, but like it's still the same thing because it's still an issue.
Yeah. But I
um,
think, like I said earlier in this podcast, like the original really core memory.
mhm.
So I gotta
What
say
a
the
core
original.
memory.
It was like I was legit terrified, which to say to everyone, I read a lot of horror, I watch a lot of horror, I don't get scared. So I always like wish I can go back in time and rewatch Candyman for the first time again.
Yeah, it is genuinely like spooky, like just the graffiti and stuff, like just, like the way that the mouth graffiti looks. Just like the art in general, like in
Mhm.
the next one too. Um Crazy.
Yeah.
Um just like it has its own like eerie stuff. And you know what? It's really funny because this movie genuinely terrified you, and one of the only movies that genuinely terrifies me is Hellraiser. So
So
I don't
Clive
like
Barker's
aliens.
onto something.
Yeah, it's just unsettling. Like he's good at making things that are unsettling.
Yeah, so one thing I will confess, this was my first Clive Barker ever that I read,
Yeah, mine
and
too.
I love him.
Yeah, now I'm like I want to read more of the Books of Blood. I want to read the Hellraiser short story, which is actually pretty long because I've seen it like bound like in Barnes and
Yeah.
Noble.
But
Um
then one of the people in the book club mentioned the Hellbound Heart. Is that what it's
yeah, that's
called?
that's the one that's Hellraiser, I think.
That's Hellraiser.
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah. It has a
They were like,
pinhead on
that's
the
my favorite
cover,
book.
so I
So
think I think it is. But yeah, no, I almost picked it up the other day. I really like the way that I like the way that they did it. Like it's pretty. It's got like lime green and black, and I like that color combo. But yeah, no, I definitely would like to read more of his stuff. I'm a fan after reading this. Like I like just he has like a really unique way of writing, I feel like
yeah.
too. Like, he's like descriptive, but like not overly descriptive, which is like something that I've said on this podcast is one of the reasons why Stephen King is not my favorite. It's because he can get like overly descriptive. But I felt like it was like the right amount.
Mhm.
It was gory. It was meaningful. Um, it has a man with yellow skin and red hair.
And
So
I really like his one-liners that are just so good. He has like these little zingers in there that you're like,
mhm.
oh, that
Very
is
quotable.
so well written. So
Yeah. Very demure, very mindful.
we love a demure Clive Barker.
Yeah, demure, mindful Clive Barker. He originated. Um, well, that's all I have for this.
Yeah.
Do you have any
Thanks for
last
having me.
thank you so much for being here. Guys, you need to check out Dead Readers Society on Instagram. They have a Discord. You can come hang out with us. We're very fun, very demure, very mindful. I'm just gonna keep saying it because like no fun. But yeah, everyone's really cool. I cannot say enough good things about the people in the horror book community. Um, everybody that I've met has been fabulous, yourself included, Kristen. So I'm
I
so glad
got
that
you.
I'm so
I want to
glad
be
that
here
I
because of
just
it.
love the whole community. And it's really this is our second to last book club, and I like can't even believe the summer's almost over. It's like basically over. Um, but I've had so much fun doing this, and I would not have done it without all of y'all. So thank you guys. All right. Well, thank you guys for watching. Our next episode is going to be with Dorian Sinnott, one of my really good friends, great author, horror author himself. And we're going to be watching Scooby Doo with Matthew Lillard, Sarah Michelle Gellar, Freddie Prinze Jr., Linda Cardellini, the whole damn fam. And we'll be reading Meddling Kids by Edgar Cantero, which is based in Scooby Doo, I guess. Um, I have not read it yet. It won't actually be, it's not going to be like a direct, like, Candyman is the forbidden type of thing, but they're similar enough. And I want to watch Scooby Doo again. I always want to watch Scooby Doo. That's the bottom line. So, thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you, Kristen, for being here. It's
Yeah,
been a
thank
great
you.
convo. All right. Thank you guys so much. See you next
Bye.
week. Bye.
Bye.